I have to say, this new arc that we're in with Fire Force seems to be goddamn amazing. It really is feeling like every character is gonna have their moment to be a badass, but also have some pretty emotional storytelling, which I think is the perfect way to wrap up the first season of Fire Force. Last week, I think most of us can agree was goddamn incredible, but this week with the Lieutenant and a return to form with Arthur, I have to say, it brought a grin to my face. And the thing I love the most about this week's episode, and I guess even last week as well, is how it feels so gloomy. A lot of what we see is grayscale, like there's just mist, like the background, it's black and white, it's gray. The only real colors that we see is like the glowing of the blues from their suits or when the flames are active. Besides that, it is a very depressing atmosphere. It's very atmospheric, it's very almost claustrophobic. Despite there being so much open space, it almost feels like that we're entering the nether, we're going underground. It feels as if all life, all souls are just stripped away and all that's left is just emptiness and shallowness. And if you're going to present something that's supposed to be terrifying and supposed to just send shivers up your spine, I think the way they're detailing it with such a lack of color is the optimal way to get us to feel the same way as the girl shaking in fear when they're trying to discover which tunnel to go down, or you're facing down the barrel, or I guess I should just say the arrow of someone's bow. It's absolutely thrilling, and actually it creeps me out, I'll be totally honest. And this episode was great. I love how it's not just a couple of the characters getting their moments in this arc, it actually seems like everyone's going to, and based off of the, I guess you could call it a cliffhanger of just holy shit, Lisa and just crazy ass Dr. Giovanni, like it's gonna be interesting next week for sure. But this week, it stood tall by itself. I loved what the Lieutenant did in this episode. I've always thought he was a cool character, and I thought the idea of his gunplay was interesting, but I'll be honest, I never was really blown away by him until this episode. I thought just to see the creativity in his gunplay was awesome, especially because you are fighting off against someone and you're fighting them long-range sniper battles, and we really haven't seen that in Fire Force. It's been pretty much up close and personal, the odd sniper, the odd distance combat, but for the most part, the most sniper action that we've seen has been a couple of shots and they got the hell out of there. But with this episode, with a bow versus basically a shotgun that becomes a rifle, I think it was like perfect to have like 8-9 minutes of the episode dedicated to long range combat, because I feel like a lot of like mangakas, they can easily write hand-to-hand combat, but not many can write long distance, because that's where you actually have to get tactical, where you actually have to be interesting, because you literally have stationary characters not doing anything except firing, covering, moving locations. That in a lot of authors' hands isn't going to be all that interesting. War isn't interesting. War is a very depressing time. However, most soldiers, they're not really running in the front lines being like just wildly firing machine guns. No, it's waiting for your moment to attack. Yeah, this episode of Fire Force made it really, really fun. Really exhilarating, and some of the most memorable action as of late. Not saying a hell of a lot. Just the idea of having to flee almost like this cat and mouse chase, and it was looking pretty bad for Lieutenant for a good while. He couldn't combat it. He didn't know where the hell she was. It seemed like she was always predicting where the hell he was. It just felt as if everything was going to shit. But when he started to transform his gun, and I gotta be honest, that might be the coolest thing we've seen in Fire Force in terms of tech, in terms of weaponry. The idea that his shotgun blast, his like rifle blast, is so strong that it just destroys the barrel after one shot. It creates this sonic boom, so he basically has a bunch of replacements, is totally rad. I loved everything about that, and how basically his back was against the wall. He was pretty much beaten and bruised and broke, but you know, he would fire enough shots that at that point the sonic waves, even if he wasn't hitting her, arrow was probably going to get destroyed. And the fact of the matter is that the build up to that final moment where basically both of them rose to the occasion, they fired their last shots, and he used the velocity of the arrow to propel his bullet, his flaming ball of destruction, to just take out Arrow, was amazing. I thought just everything about that fight, the back and forth, the idea of literally just snipers going at it, both being in pretty much pitch black darkness, really feeling like, holy shit, are we gonna lose a character here? Because there was no help in sight, except, well, I guess Arthur was in the roof, but we didn't know that. I thought it was just amazing how exhilarating it felt, as if we were watching two characters pummel each other in the face, hand-to-hand combat, as if so much was happening, but really, it was two characters hiding in the shadows, waiting for their moment striking and just really feeling like some of these, cultists just looking in terror, being like, God damn, we were gonna wait for our moment to strike, but it's just two tanks attacking one another. We're gonna sit this one out. It's like, yeah, rightfully so. Like, you didn't want to get in the crossfire of that just nuclear bomb going off. But I did like how Arthur got introduced to this episode in such an Arthur fashion. Like, if he wasn't there, we would have lost the lieutenant 100%. He didn't have the energy. He could do a little flick, shoot something, but, it wasn't going to do much, especially against someone who can do a mirage and basically make him look like he's there, but really he's 10 feet away or something like that. But what they did with Arthur, and I've said it, Arthur's my favorite character in this show. I love his absurdity. The idea that he's no longer just a knight, but rather a samurai knight or a knight samurai, he kind of flips and flops about what he's actually calling himself. What other way was there to go with his training? As both Shinra and Arthur, they trained, they mastered their abilities, but I was curious, what were they going to do with Arthur? We already saw Shinra, he's gotten a lot faster, he's mastering some hand techniques, he's doing pretty well, but what would they do with Arthur? And the idea that he basically was taught to master the way of life. Basically, if someone's attacking you, you have to catch on to their breathing. Is it actually a move to kill you, or is it a move to try to distract you? And I thought that was so perfect that he was training for so long, and he mastered a way to counter illusions and just something that is meant to throw you off so they could get you in the distance. And I thought it was so awesome and so in Arthur's character to both play Samurai Knight while also being a totally mature and amazing warrior. Someone who, yes, he was, doing the samurai poses, just letting all these shadows attack him. But at the same time, it still felt like it was such an Arthur thing while also being so mature and not Arthur on the process. Like, the more delusional he is, the more powerful he is. And I thought it was so amazing and to just see that slice, and it was like, holy shit, did he just try to attack the lieutenant? But nope, he just sliced that bastard up. It just feels as if the build up to entering the Nether, there was so much training, there was so much hardships, but it feels like our characters are at the best point in their life, despite being separated, despite being in a very dangerous situation. At best there's only one or two of them tagging along with each other, but still, it feels as if even though the Nether is throwing so much hardships their way, they're doing exceptionally well. You're getting a little glimpses of some of the other characters, and you're seeing all the flaming kicks and punches, and just, it's awesome to see how far these characters have come, especially if you compare it to the intro of the anime, where you had Arthur and Shinra trying to play fire soldiers, being like, oh yeah, we're gonna swing around our axes, we're gonna go take out the Infernals, and look at how far they've come. Yes, they are still anime gimmicky at times, they have their tropes, they have their little fun that they have with each other, but look at how far they come both with combat, but also their personalities when they need to be serious. Even though Arthur was, in the middle of this battle thinking about what he was going to call himself, he still rose to the occasion, was a mature person, and saved the life of one of his comrades, and that's why the lieutenant was actually proud of him, despite also probably rolling his eyes at the absurdity that is the Samurai Knight, or Knight Samurai, depending on how you want to say it. And even though this was serious, even though there was a lot of action, even though there was a lot of me being like, holy shit, we're gonna lose a character, demonize, and she always thinks everyone's calling her a gorilla, but no one actually does. It's just, I honestly hope that gag never stops. Obviously don't abuse the gag, don't have it 3 times in every single episode, but honestly, if you want to just keep having her get mad that people are insulting her for being too macho, just keep doing it, because her reactions somehow find a way to continue to be refreshing. Even though the atmosphere for this episode was a big part of why it was so creepy, you gotta give props to the music. Was I the only one who was getting, legitimately creeped out by the music in this episode? It felt like they were pulling music from the gates of hell. As if you died, you were approaching Satan's gates, and you're just hearing demonic and, religious cultist music playing, and you're like, yeah, maybe heaven's not so bad. I'm just gonna see you, Satan, and you're just kind of walking away, but this Nether just keeps pulling you right back in. The music mixed with the black and white grayscale that we were experiencing for a majority of this episode was completely insane and atmospheric. I'd actually go as far to say this might have been the most atmospheric episode of Fire Force to date. Overall, the anime's done a really good job at setting the tone of what was happening if we're in the middle of a street, or if we're fighting infernals inside a building. They've done a really good job, but the idea that this is supposed to be an insane arc, hell, they're releasing trailers hyping up this Netherworld arc, so it's gotta be good, and they really have to bring their A+ game, and I think so far they're doing a great job at that. Last week was an amazing episode, this week I'd go as far to say was even better. It just feels as if the Nether is gonna show us things that we're familiar with, but also doing it in such a way that it feels so much better than anything we've seen before. Mixed with a killer soundtrack, mixed with killer just atmospheric presentation, and insane action and character moments, I think by the time episode 24 wraps up, Fire Force is going to go out with such a bang that it's going to leave a lot of people speechless. I'm going to predict that, and when we get that season 2, I think there's going to be a lot more people jumping on board that Fire Force hype train. And I know a lot of people are watching this, but I think depending on how good this arc wraps up, and based on what we've seen so far over the past couple of episodes, I think it's going to go out with such a bang that it's going to make even more people a fan of Fire Force, because there's going to be an episode or a couple of episodes that are going to just blow up in popularity, most likely, and just get even more people to jump aboard this train, which I hope so, because this show has really become something special. Not just your random show of the season, but rather something that actually has depth to it, which, you know, maybe in the intro I wouldn't have said. I would have said it was a fun show. Maybe I wouldn't go as far to say it has, like, insane depth, but right now, absolutely I am. Every single character I'm excited to see. Like, I wouldn't have said, you know, give me a good action lieutenant spectacle, maybe even, like, 10 episodes ago. But right now, like, give me action, give me character moments, give me comedy or serious or slice of life with any of these characters, and it's probably going to be damn good, if not exceptional, depending on the direction they take it. And based on the setting that we're currently in, it's pretty much the best setting we've seen in Fire Force to date. A lot of people have been hyping up this arc, and I think rightfully so. This was just such a great episode, one of my favorites, maybe even top 3 of Fire Force for me. That's how much I really enjoyed it, and I hope this is just the beginning of the Netherworld arc, because right now, the future for Fire Force has never been brighter. What did everyone think for manga readers, anime originals? What did you think of this episode, and the action and just some of the curveballs that it did throw our way? Whatever you're feeling, do let me know, and be sure to drop a like if you did enjoy, and remember, hit that subscribe button if you have been new. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.